Have you ever just looked at a map and thought about coloring it in? It sounds kind of like something you do as a kid, right? But what if I told you that inside that simple idea is one of the most elegant and beautiful puzzles in all of mathematics? Today, we're going to explore that. It all boils down to this one simple question. How many colors does it actually take to fill in a map? Any map. What do you think is the absolute minimum you'd need so that no two countries or states that are touching have the same color? I mean, is it 3? 10? 100?
Well, that very question is the heart of what's famously known as the mapmaker's puzzle. And, it seems so straightforward, but it has fascinated and honestly frustrated mathematicians for centuries.
So here's the deal. There's really only one rule to this whole game, and it's super simple. As you color in the map, any two regions that share a border, a real line, not just a corner, they just have to be different colors. That's it. That is the only constraint. The whole challenge is to pull this off using as few colors as possible.
Okay, so you might be thinking, this is a neat little brain teaser, but does it, matter in the real world? And the answer is a huge yes. This is where this simple little puzzle gets incredibly powerful. We're going to go way beyond the map now.
Because you see, the core idea isn't really about geography at all. It's a way of thinking about how to manage resources and avoid conflicts. The colors can be anything, and the regions can be any group of things that might clash with each other.
For example, think about a university trying to make a class schedule. The regions are all the courses being offered. The colors are the lecture halls and the time slots. Now, if two classes have a lot of the same students, they share a border. They can't be scheduled at the same time. The puzzle is finding the absolute minimum number of time slots to make the whole schedule work for everyone. It's the exact same problem. So to solve problems like this, mathematicians came up with this really elegant trick. They take the messy, visual clutter of a map and transform it into something much cleaner, much more abstract. They turn maps into dots. And it happens in 3 really easy steps. First, you just place a single dot, let's call it a node, inside every single region of the map. Easy enough. Step 2, if 2 regions touch, you draw a line, an edge, connecting their dots. And finally, step 3, you just let the original map fade away. What you have left is this clean, simple web of dots and lines.
This new structure we've made has a special name. It's called a planar graph. And planar really just means it can be drawn on a flat surface, a plane, without any of the lines crossing over each other. Which makes perfect sense, right? Because it came from a flat map. This is the key. This is the big idea we needed. And just like that, we've translated a picture into a pure mathematical object. A problem that looked really complex and kind of messy is suddenly becoming simpler and clearer. Just let that sink in for a moment.
So now we can ask our original question in a totally new way. The task is now called graph coloring. All we have to do is give a color to each dot, or node, following that same old rule. If 2 nodes are connected by a line, they have to have different colors.
And this leads us to 2 main types of questions. On one hand, you have the decision problem. That's a simple yes or no. For example, can this graph be colored with exactly 3 colors? Yes or no. Then you have the optimization problem, which is about finding the absolute best answer. What is the smallest number of colors we possibly need for this specific graph?
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. We started with a jumble of borders on a map, and now we have these elegant, precise questions about dots and lines. It's just a really beautiful way to find clarity when things look complicated.
So with this new way of thinking, this new framework, let's go all the way back to our original puzzle about maps. We've turned it into a question about planar graphs, and now we can finally answer it. So what is it? What is that smallest number of colors you would ever need to color any possible map you could draw, no matter how ridiculously complex it is? The answer is 4. That's it, just 4. Any map you can possibly imagine, from a simple drawing to a full-blown world atlas, can be colored with, at most, 4 colors. This is known as the 4-color theorem, and its story is incredible. For over 100 years, mathematicians knew for sure that 5 colors was always enough. They could prove that. But the thing that drove them crazy was that no one could ever find a map that actually needed 5. They were just stuck. And the puzzle was finally solved in 1976, but not by a person. It was one of the first major theorems ever to be proven with the help of a computer, which just churned through thousands of cases to confirm that, yep, 4 is always enough. So we found our answer. It's 4.
But like with so many interesting problems, the number itself isn't really the most important part of the journey. The real takeaway here, the thing that's worth holding on to, is the process. It's about taking something that looks complicated, like a map, and finding a new way to see it, to abstract it into something simpler, like a graph, until the solution just becomes clear.
And you know, that's a pretty calming thought, isn't it? The world is full of conflicts and messy schedules and all sorts of tangled patterns. But sometimes understanding them isn't about working harder or just gathering more information. Sometimes it's just about finding a new, simpler way to see what's already there. Thanks for exploring this with me.